Shabbat Shalom. So special welcome to Professor Tyler Mayfield and the students from Presbyterian Theological Seminary. I'm glad you're here with us tonight, and I look forward to meeting with you after services and answering your questions. By way of show of hands, how many of you have been in a synagogue before? Okay, it looks like, well, how many of you have been to a worship service before? Most of you. Okay, I know you've made the rounds to other synagogues, but I wasn't sure if it was you or other students. So, all right. So tonight we'll be worshiping in both Hebrew and English. There's a blue prayer book in front of you. We'll be reading in Hebrew and English. I know that you guys are learning biblical Hebrew. You're welcome to join along in any parts that you choose to, or just listen, and whatever works for you. The only thing I do ask is that when I ask the congregation to please rise, that you guys rise and sit. But other than that, feel comfortable, make yourselves at home. So I am Rabbi Beth Jackowitz-Chotner, the rabbi here at Temple Shalom, and leading our music tonight is Sheila Steinman-Wallace, who is also the president of our Board of Trustees. Hopefully we'll have a few more people coming on in. But we're going to get started on page 20 with the singing of Lecha Dodi. We will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Before verse 9, I'm going to ask everybody to please rise and to turn around and face the entrance, which is symbolic of, greeting the Sabbath bride. So we face the entrance when we come to that part in the service. And Shabbat Shalom to those who are watching online.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litchila la 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 Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nisucha, sof ma'aseh v'machshava tchila la 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 la. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala.
Verse 5.
Hitoreri, ki va'orech uri shedaberi, kevod Adonai alayich nigra la la. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala.
Please rise.
Boi v'shalom ateret bahala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzochala, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, Lecha Dodi,
likrat kala,
penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala.
Please be seated. So before we continue with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, you will see 8 chairs in front of us. 8 is not symbolic, it's just the amount of chairs that fit in front of our bima, our elevated platform. The chairs are there for the hostages whose places are missing at tonight's Shabbat dinner table, at services, in their beds, in the playgrounds. So our thoughts are with them tonight, and our prayers are with them as well. I also want to point out on the entrance to the sanctuary, we have these blue pins that we got for the Stand Up to Jewish Hate. There was the commercial on TV about the blue squares, that Jews are 2.4% of the population in our country, and which is such a small amount, and we're actually only 0.2% of the entire world. We're so small that no one should even hear of us. But unfortunately, many who hear of us don't like us. But yet we will stand proud. So I just want anyone to know that if anybody wants one of these Stand Up to Jewish Hate pins, you are welcome to take them on your way out. We're going to continue on page 3, and I will light our Shabbat candles. And the blessing will be on page 2. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we be our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue responsively on page 6, in the middle of the page. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
We continue on page 15 with Psalm 98. Bottom of the page. A psalm. Sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into joyous songs of praise. Tonight we prayed that just as God's hand has helped us be triumphant in the past, whether it was the Maccabees against the Assyrians who were greatly outnumbered, whether it was the 1948 War of Independence after Israel accepted a two-state solution and the Arabs did not, and 5 countries attacked Israel the day after Israel became a state. Or in Yom Kippur, our holiest day, when we were attacked by multiple Arab nations. God was with the people of Israel, and we pray that this war will end speedily and that Israel will remain intact, that peace will come to her borders, and that the people of Gaza will be relieved of the terrorists who run it. We continue on page 28 with the Baruch Hu. I ask the congregation to please rise as the ark is opened.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please remain standing. As we continue on page 30 with Ma'ariv Aravim, our blessing for creation, we say our blessing for creation in the morning and the night. They differ slightly, but the theme is the same. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim bechokma poteach she'arim uvidvuna mishane itim umachalif et hazmanim umisader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or uma'avir yom umevi layla umavdil ben yom uvein layla Adonai tzevaot shemo El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And on page 32 we join together. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We continue on page 34 with Shema Yisrael, the watchword of our faith, declaring there's one God in heaven and on earth.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch shel kevod malchuto leolam va'ed. Baruch shel kevod malchuto leolam va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please be seated. The words that we will chant in a few moments on page 36 are also part of the Shema, the watchword of our faith. The verses on page 36 come from the book of Deuteronomy and the book of Numbers. I want to just make our guests aware that this prayer book has in this service we're doing tonight, every prayer has a 2-page spread. So on the top right is Hebrew, the bottom right is the translation, literal, and then anything on the left is an interpretive writing based on the theme of the prayer. So I know a lot of you here, know Hebrew or learning Hebrew, but if anyone wanted to read the English while we chant or read Hebrew, please feel free. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. We continue responsively in the middle of page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. The period that we are living through right now is another one of those dark ages, and we keep our hope alive for this vision of a world that will be redeemed, that one day the lion will lay down with the lamb, their study war no more, beat their swords into plowshares, that all of God's children will be free, that they will all live harmoniously with each other. It will be the way God intended the world to be, like the Garden of Eden. We know that we are far, far from that vision, but we all collectively must do all that we can, do our part to bring more wholeness and more peace and more freedom to all of God's children, wherever they may be. The words we will chant on page 40 are the words the Israelites sang after they crossed the Sea of Free, being freed from Egyptian slavery. Page 42. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. On page 44, we keep in mind Shabbat, the commandment to remember Shabbat and observe Shabbat. 6 days God created the world, and on the seventh day God rested from God's work. So in the middle of page 44, we join together in the singing of Yismechu.
Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Ahom mekadeshei, mekadeshei shavi Shabbat. Kulam yisbehu v'yitgangu mitufecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher lemase v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher lemase v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
We now come to tefillah, which means prayer. It's also called the Amidah, which means standing. So we are going to rise, and we're going to open the ark, and we are going to be chanting on the even number pages, starting on 46. Please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov. גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב והושיח, משיח הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידות מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
Page 52.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh ha-Shabbat. We continue together in the middle of page 57. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Page 59. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulacha na'eh lehodot. We come now to Shalom Rav, our prayer for peace. We continue to pray for peace. Week after week, I hear myself saying that peace continues to elude us. It eludes us as Jews. Anti-Semitism is reaching historic heights. It eludes the state of Israel. It eludes people throughout this world. We particularly pray tonight for those who have lost loved ones, those whose loved ones are missing or hostages in Gaza, those who are suffering because of this war. Shalom Rav, page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
At this time, we call to mind our loved ones who are in need of prayers of healing, be it body, mind, or spirit. Tonight, our prayers are with Lev Dickerman, Teresa Todd, Jim Todd, Leela Wilson, Paul Tackett, Eric Gershkovich, who's being held illegally in a prison in Moscow, Al Unger, Beth Haberman, Fran Skoll, Robin Unger, Will Duval, Alvin Casson. If you'd like to add the names of loved ones for us to keep in our prayers, whether you're a member or a visiting guest, please say their names aloud so we can keep them in our prayers tonight. Continue with our Misha Baruch prayer for healing, which can be found in the middle of page 253. Continue silently with Tefillat Halev, the prayers of our hearts, guided either by our own thoughts and meditations or the words found on page 62 and 63 in our prayer book.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, וגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. O say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru, ve'yimeru. Amen.
In this week's Torah portion, which comes from the book of Genesis, starting with chapter 18, Parshat Vayera, several things happen. 3 men appear to Abraham and Sarah as they are sitting at their tent with their flaps open, and they invite them in, which teaches us the mitzvah, the commandment of hachnasat orchim, of welcoming guests. We have the episode where God tells Abraham that he plans to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and Abraham pleads with God and challenges him, saying, what if there's 50 righteous people? Will you destroy for the sake of 50? God says, no, not for the sake of 50, 45, 40. He goes all the way down to 10. 10 righteous people have not been found. We know that Sodom is destroyed. There are other things that happen in this Torah portion. There's a famine. Abraham and Sarah go down to Egypt. We know that Sarah is told that she is going to have a son. She finds that hard to believe at her age. It goes on and on. There's a lot that happens in this week's Torah portion, but tonight I want to focus on something that was written by a colleague of mine, Rabbi Josh Weinberg, who serves as the executive director of ARTSA, the Association of Reform Zionists of America. So he begins with the line in chapter 18, that verse 19, that says, "For I have singled him out," meaning Abraham. "I have singled him out that he may instruct his children and his posterity to keep the way of Adonai by doing what is just and right, in order that Adonai may bring about for Abraham what has been promised him." So he writes, there is no more important Jewish undertaking than teaching our children to do what is just and right. The lessons of our past are to be imparted to our children to instill in them a strong sense of identity and belonging, and to fashion a sense of moral and ethical behavior. We want our children to be charged with the task of uprooting evil, standing up for those who are powerless, and repairing the broken fragments of our world. At At this moment in time when our people are experiencing a crisis of biblical proportions, it is our text and traditions that help us make sense of what we should teach our children. This week's parashah, this week's Torah portion, Vayera, offers us some lessons for how we should act, speak, and lead as examples for ourselves and our children. 1, speak truth to power and judge fairly. In Genesis chapter 18, verse 25, it says, quote, "Far be it from you to do such a thing." This is Abraham talking to God. And he's talking about destroying Sodom. "Far be it from you to do such a thing, to bring death upon the innocent as well as the guilty, so that innocent and guilty fare alike. Far be it from you, shall not the judge of all the earth deal justly?" His comments say, sometimes there are moral quandaries that have no good outcome. Sometimes there is evil that is so intense and egregious that it must be removed at all costs. Abraham asks whether God will sweep away the innocent along with the guilty. God answers saying, "I will not destroy for the sake of 10 righteous people." At the moment our family was under attack and evil stood at the doorstep, we argued to preserve the lives of a handful of innocent people. We teach our children to see the good in every person, even though there are times when whole societies behave in ways that need to be condemned. That's what it means to keep the way of Adonai by doing what we believe is just and right. Point 2, powerlessness is not a Jewish virtue. For centuries, Rabbi Weinberg writes, we experienced what it was like to be subjects to the rulers of others until we became a sovereign nation and to be powerful enough to defend ourselves. Only 9 verses after Abraham became the first immigrant to the land of Israel, he went down to Egypt and was subject to the mercy and power of others. There are those who, to this day, are uncomfortable with Jews having power. We Jews should never apologize for having strength and for the ability to defend ourselves. Judaism does not subscribe to the idea that one should, quote, turn the other cheek, unquote, when attacked. In fact, one important rule taught by the Talmud gives us the license to defend ourselves using ultimate means. Quote, if someone comes planning to kill you, you should rise to kill them first. That's what the Talmud teaches us, self-defense. We cannot defend ourselves if we are powerless. We learned that lesson on October 6, 1973. That was the Yom Kippur War. And all the more so on October 7th, 2023. If we let down our guard, then evil lurks at the door and will do us great harm. But just as we must defend ourselves, we are also taught not to rejoice when our enemy perishes. Our tradition rebukes us strongly for rejoicing as the Egyptian army drowned in the Red Sea. And we cannot also turn a blind eye to the suffering of others, even if they rejoiced when our people were being brutally slaughtered. He didn't write this, but it calls to mind that phone call of the person who called his parents, joyfully saying that he killed Jews and asking, Dad, are you proud of me? Let me talk to Mom. Rabbi Weinberg's third point. In the face of adversity, tradition calls upon us to stand proudly as Jews. Hence my blue square. This brings us to Lot and the irredeemable evil of Sodom. What is the lesson we teach our children when we see Jews barricading themselves in a college library to avoid an angry mob wanting to do them harm, when Jewish students relocate to avoid physical harm, or when Jews are told to stay in their homes to avoid angry protests. And I would add, those who landed in Russia and were being attacked, right, by people on the runway, the plane had to go to another location, and there again, they were met with pro-Palestinian protesters wanting to harm them. These experiences are not new to the Jewish people, and they take us back to the biblical Lot, who was besieged by the people of Sodom, who were struck by a blinding light, which rendered them powerless. We are reminded as well of the secret Torah study of Rabbi Akiva to avoid the Romans, of the period of the Middle Ages when Jews hid on Easter and Christmas to avoid becoming victims to pogroms and attacks, and of the secret synagogue in Terezin, concentration camp in what was once the Czechoslovakia, at the end of an alley that even the Nazis didn't know was there, and to those who kept their Jewish identity alive while avoiding the threat of the Soviet KGB. Throughout our long history, for most of that time, we Jews lacked the power to defend ourselves, and so we could not teach our children, by example, to fight evil when it confronted us. Rather, we cowered in fear when tradition taught us to keep the way of Adonai by doing what is just and right. The Zionist movement emerged in history to enable the Jewish people to defend themselves against powerful enemies without fear, while at the same time reaching out in peace to our neighbors, as it is so plainly articulated in Israel's Declaration of Independence. For those who have not read Israel's Declaration of Independence, it's easy to find online. I encourage everyone who has not read it, please do so. What can we teach our children about what it means to be Jews living outside of Israel today? Admittedly, it is especially difficult at this moment in the history of our people. So many of us are physically safe, but glued to the news and emotionally drained. Many of us don't know how best to communicate with our non-Jewish friends, schoolmates, business associates, partners, our neighbors, who do not understand our deep connections with the people and the state of Israel. We are often lost as well in knowing what to advise our kids when they encounter anti-Israel and anti-Semitic comments at school or at colleges and universities. We worry about their feelings of vulnerability in the face of such deeply disturbing images of October 7th and the suffering of innocent Palestinians in Gaza that are oozing from their devices, while explaining to them that even though we hope to avoid war at all costs, we cannot also with good conscience call for a ceasefire at the moment until the hostages are returned and Hamas is defeated. What can we do for ourselves and our children in these times? We can mobilize and work together on behalf of our people in Israel. Whether it's donating necessary funds, wearing a blue ribbon, or contributing our time and energy to be there for each other and helping people cope with the magnitude of this tragedy, we can figure out the best way to talk to those with whom we disagree, even when it's difficult, and we would be much easier to just write them off. We can listen empathetically to the pain and angst of others, family, friends, and fellow Jews. As we scrutinize every word we see in print, statements, social media posts, and the endless newsreels, we can work to avoid the already biting polarization. Being a Jew today is complicated and challenging, and that is an understatement. I would add, it's also really frightening. So many members of Temple Shalom So many here in Louisville, so many across the country and around the world, we are living in fear. I dare say a fear that has not been known since 1939. We have to be able to embrace multiple truths and conflicting feelings all at once. And that is what it means to be Jewish. However, there is a certain comfort in knowing that we Jews are part of a great nation of which we can be justifiably proud. In this week's Torah portion, we have the model of Abraham sticking up, not just sticking up, but literally arguing with God and challenging God. We are being challenged in this day and age to confront what is evil, who is evil, what does it mean to be anti-Semitic? What does it mean to be anti-Zionist? What does it mean to stand with those advocating for Hamas, saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, negating the fact that Jews, once called Israelites, were in the land of Israel 3,000 years ago. Artifacts that archaeologists still find to this day are written in the language of our people, the language that we speak. Names of people in our Torah, our ancient, most sacred text, the Torah. There is no doubt that Jews lived in Israel for thousands of years, and there has always been a Jewish presence in the land of Israel. It is just and right for Jews to be there. And in 1948, when a two-state solution was devised, with Jerusalem being an international city, even though it was less than ideal for the Jews, they said, okay, let's do this, and let's live in peace with our neighbors. Let's have a country that has equality regardless of race, religion, the language you speak, etc. That's what we wanted. That's what was just and right. But that's not what we got. And so today, when children and grandmothers and grandfathers and parents are being held captive, ripped from their beds, when young people, one of whom is a friend of mine, attended the music festival. Luckily, he got out, but I have a friend, her friend's daughter was killed at the music festival. That is not just and right. So we must do all we can to not only get the hostages back, but to make sure that this terrorist group that not only has in its charter, their purpose is to destroy the state of Israel. And you don't have to take my word. Look it up online. But that they must be destroyed because the barbarism that they committed is unthinkable. There are frozen trailers today in Israel filled with body parts that they are forensically still trying to identify to whom they belong. That's how badly they were abused and butchered. And Israel is really good, unfortunately, has learned to be good, have to be excellent at identifying remains, and they still can't identify many remains. So we know public opinion's against us. Many are marching and demonstrating against us, against Israel. But we need to know we didn't start this, we didn't ask for this. And 75 years ago, there could have been a two-state solution. But this is where we are today, and we need to pray that somehow, some way, that peace will come. I don't know how, but something has to change, and I pray that that day comes sooner than later. Shabbat Shalom. A few announcements. We'll be here tomorrow morning for services at 10:30. Next Thursday night, right here in this sanctuary, we will have a Kristallnacht commemoration. Kristallnacht was the night of broken glass. 85 years ago, when Jewish businesses, the glass was broken, businesses were set on fire, synagogues were set ablaze. It was the beginning of the end for Europe's Jews. We will gather here for a commemorative service, 7 p.m. Please know that registration is required to attend. The link has been sent out by me and also by Latanya in our email blast. So without registration, you could watch it at home. It will be streamed, but you still might have to register to get the link. We, Temple Shalom, are sponsoring and participating in another Interfaith Habitat for Humanity build. The building will take place, raise the roof. Those are the first days of putting up the roof. Will be next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Temple Shalom volunteers will be there next Friday. Again, everyone's welcome. There's no charge, but you need to fill out some forms online, which came from our email blast. We have a congregational vote on November 12th. If you cannot be here in person, proxy ballots are available. The men's club breakfast previously scheduled for November 12th has been postponed. And the last piece of information is also on November 12th. There is a Jewish community social. It's being held at the Point from 5 to 8. All 5 congregations here in town are sponsoring it. It's going to include dinner, cocktails, a trivia match, and some other things. It's $10 a person. It'll be a nice way to get together with people, socialize for a few hours, and maybe just have some fun amongst the heat of the intensity of what's happening in our country, in Israel, and around the world. I want to thank Sheila for leading us in music, and I want to thank Travis for being here to stream online. We're going to continue in the middle of page 282 with Aleinu L'Shabeach. I ask the congregation to please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, l'tei gedula liyotzei Bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, v'lo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. 284. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגב ה' מרומים. Eloheinu ein
We continue in the middle of page 292. We have lived in numberless towns and villages, and in too many of them we have endured cruel suffering. Some we have forgotten, others are sealed in our memory, a wound that does not heal. 100 generations of victims and martyrs, still their blood cries out from the earth. So many at Dachau, at Buchenwald, at Babi Yar, at Auschwitz. What can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable, or accept what life has brought to our people? All who are born must die, but how shall we compare the slow passage of time with the callous slaughter of the innocent in Israel, cut off before their time? They live with faith, not all, but many, and surely many died with faith in God, in life, in the goodness that even flames cannot destroy. May we find a way to the strength of that faith, that trust, that sure sense that life and soul endure beyond this body's death. They have left their lives to us. Let a million prayers rise whenever Jews worship. Let a million candles glow against the darkness of these unfinished lives. If you are here to recite Kaddish for a loved one, you're invited to rise when their name is read aloud. Tonight we remember Jack Barmack, Dorothy Brown, Lawrence Friedman, Solomon Goldman, Charles Goldwyn, Herb Green, Ada Grossman, Dorothy Hartung, Hal Levine, Eugene Michel, Stephen Moldine, John Penner, Sadie Seligman, Michael Steinman, Edward Zimmerman, Elizabeth Isler, Bonnie Beiser, Maury Klawans, Esther Simons, Ethel Ginsburg, Sidney L. Heimson, Morris Lipschutz. We're in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning for George Terziev, Harvey Weingarten, and we're in a period of Shiva, the first 7 days of mourning for Cyril Charn. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, and may they rest in peace as we rise together as a congregation, praising God's holy name with the Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad v'rach yurotei v'yamlich machutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kari v'yimeru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei olamaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudasha b'richu, le'ela amin kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'yalma v'yimeru, amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimeru, amen. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimeru, amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say together, amen. Our concluding song this evening can be found on the bottom of page 374, Hatikva, which means the hope. It is Israel's national anthem. We stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters and pray for them. Pray for them.
כל עוד בלבב פנימה, נפש יהודי הומייה, תהא מזרח קדימה, עין לציון צופיה. עוד לא אבדה תקוותנו, התקווה בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to convene in the lobby for blessing over the wine and the challah, and then those from the seminary, we can come on back in here for our conversation.